So there's a slim chance you may not have heard the news. Let me break it to you. You're either going to be way too happy or devastatingly depressed. Here goes. Donald Trump's been elected president. Did anyone see that coming? You're bound to have seen it on social media by now because, oddly enough, the writers of The Simpsons foresaw the Donald's rise to power. Because of that clip doing the rounds, we thought it might be kind of fascinating to look at a couple of examples of times when seemingly innocent cartoons have predicted the future.
Amazing!
Number 10. The Simpsons predicted Donald Trump's presidency. It might seem hard to accept at first, but the same people responsible for giving us the most jaundice-riddled town since Lego City apparently write their show with some kind of crystal ball. But you know what? Predicting Trump's shock victory isn't all that much of a leap, partly because back in the day, you were only allowed to write for The Simpsons if you had a Harvard education. So I guess these are people who know their stuff. No wonder they can foresee the way the world is going. If you put a bunch of super intelligent liberals together and essentially ask them to make an episode that hypothesizes the worst possible candidate for American president, well, they're liberals and clever ones. Donald Trump is an obvious choice for that joke. Of course they chose him. On closer inspection, though, the real shock isn't their prediction of Trump, but their prediction of the Electoral College voting map results. If you look at the ECV for the real-world Trump versus Clinton race and the one The Simpsons showed, the red-to-blue ratio is pretty much spot on. That's how you know these guys are putting their Harvard educations to good use. They were able to accurately predict almost 100% which states would go red and which states would go blue. That's an incredible understanding of the ideologies of different parts of the US. We pray for politicians to know even half as much about the people they claim to represent. Number 9. The Simpsons predicted industrial-scale horse meat. There's a South Park episode in which the writers point out that no matter what idea you think of for a story, at some point in the last 400 billion seasons, The Simpsons did it. Well, now The Simpsons did it mantra is slipping into real life. Instead of predicting the ebb and flow of politics, those Harvard nerds started predicting food-based controversies. So first, back in 2013, Europe had a problem with meat, the problem being that most of it was secretly horse. If you bought a beef lasagna in England in 2013, you basically bought a minced-up slab of Seabiscuit. Those discount frozen spaghetti dishes students were living off were just ground-up horses, disguised as pork or chicken or whatever the hell else it was. But way back in 1994, The Simpsons made a crack about horse meat being used in school dinners. The basic gist of the gag was the idea that lots of meat eaters don't really check what they're eating. So how would they know their lovely beef Wellington had bits of Black Beauty in it? But like I said, The Simpsons have had more than just one food-based premonition. Number 8. The Simpsons predicted radiation-affected tomatoes. The show has been around for so many years now and crammed so many ideas into each and every episode that it was inevitable they would predict the future a couple of times. Way back in 1999, Matt Groening and the gang did an episode where tomato seeds and tobacco seeds get mixed up. Cue the arrival of disgusting mutant tomatoes. Or tobacco. Well, in 2011, the world didn't quite get the juicy yet smoky hybrid we were all expecting, but radiation in Japan led to some pretty badly mutant veggies, and chief among them were some pretty horrifying looking tomatoes. For real, these things looked one evolutionary step from rising up and eating us. Number 7. Family Guy predicting Bruce Jenner coming out as transgender. Now, Matt Groening is not the only budding clairvoyant biding his time as an animator. The king of controversy with the voice of an angel that is Seth MacFarlane is no stranger for guessing the future. And no, living teddy bears aren't a thing. Yet. The first of his future guesses I want to talk about is Stewie making a throwaway comment about Bruce Jenner secretly being a woman.
Bruce Jenner is a man.
No, Brian. That's what the press would have you believe, but he's not. Bruce Jenner is a woman. An elegant, beautiful Dutch woman.
Long before the real Bruce Jenner publicly came out as transgender. Long before. What's odd about this gag is it's not really offensive, more surreal. The basic idea is Stewie insists Bruce Jenner is actually a woman. There's no real need for the joke or context, it's just an amusing aside. So of all the gags to come true, for it to be this one as opposed to a biting piece of satire is, well, interesting. MacFarlane could have chosen anyone to be in that joke. Bruce Jenner was a random choice. So for MacFarlane to have chosen the one person in Hollywood who has actually come out as trans is a mind-blowing coincidence. Number 6. South Park predicting controversy over Confederate flags. Right. So, roughly 800 years ago, when it was only season 4 of South Park, the show's characters debate the possibility of changing their town flag. Basically, they're worried it might seem racist to modern eyes. Others, however, defend the flag because, well, it's always been there. Why mess with history, right? All manner of time travel films have taught us that that never goes well. But jump to 2015, and in Mississippi, their real Confederate flag came under fire, for the same reason as South Park's fictional one. Those suggesting a change even pushed to have buildings named after white supremacists renamed. Some saw the flag as a symbol for racism, others saw it as a vital piece of history or heritage. Exactly like in South Park. It went to a vote, and, well, all opinions aside, let's just say that flag didn't change. Number 5. Both Family Guy and American Dad predicted the Boston bombings. Let's pop back to Seth MacFarlane for a bit. The Family Guy episode, Turban Cowboy, broadcast back in March 2013, has been noted by fans as having a lot of parallels with the Boston Marathon bombings, which happened a month after the episode transmitted. But most noteworthy of these parallels is the episode Peter accidentally triggers 2 bombs. That's the same number as the real-world attack. He also goes on to accidentally murder a couple Boston residents. Whilst it doesn't totally sync up, an episode featuring 2 bombs and the death of Boston citizens all in one episode, airing all of just a month before the terrible marathon bombings, is interesting. Most interesting, though, an episode of American Dad, another show from the Family Guy team, airing around the same time, features a character making his own joke about 2 bombs.
I gotta be honest with you, Snot. I wasn't really looking forward to this night, but I had a blast.
Well, call the bomb squad, because with the blast I had, that makes 2 blasts.
Now then, these are the options. Maybe both Family Guy and American Dad predicted the Boston bombings. Maybe Seth MacFarlane is a modern-day Nostradamus. Or maybe, given both shows write jokes via a sort of throw enough you-know-what at the wall style, it's a hell of a coincidence. Either way, take a moment to research conspiracy theories about these episodes. There are folks out there who have, well, they've really let their imagination run wild. Let's say that. Number 4. Family Guy predicted Robin Williams' suicide. This one is a little wishy-washy, but hear me out. So in the Family Guy episode Fat Man and Robin, Peter Griffin is given King Midas-style powers. The thing is, instead of turning things to gold with a single touch, he turns them into history's hairiest comedian, Robin Williams. The basic gist of the episode is that Peter thinks his niche new powers will make his life funnier, more enjoyable. But a little overwhelmed by the constant presence of Robin, Peter makes an attempt on his life. Lots of people have drawn a link between this episode and the fact that in real life, Robin sadly took his own life. So whilst the episode may not have quite predicted exactly what went down, it certainly features enough elements that people noticed. In fact, the episode aired in England on BBC literally 3 minutes before the news about Robin went public, making a lot of people super uncomfortable. Sadly, predicting Robin Williams' suicide was far from hard. If anything, that gag was low-hanging fruit. Robin was open about his problems with depression, and it was perhaps highly foreseeable to anyone with a heart to pay attention. Number 3. Lots of tech from the Jetsons. Science fiction has a long history of accurately predicting developments in technology. Star Trek, in particular, is notorious for it. Red Dwarf less so, with its prediction that instead of DVDs we'd have triangular VHS tapes. Doctor Who is another one, a little off the mark. I'm still waiting on a time machine shaped like a police box. However, one cartoon that gets a surprising number of future gadgets and gizmos is the Jetsons. Flat screens, camera phones, even tanning beds. They all showed up in the Jetsons first. First, Jetsons predicting fake tan, then Simpsons predicting Trump as president. If these shows predicted anything, it's that the future is orange. The cool thing, though, is if the Jetsons' track record keeps up, hopefully we might soon be living in awesome little bubble houses. Number 2. Family Guy predicted Paul Walker's death. In the November 2013 episode called The Life of Brian, after a few time travel-related mishaps, Brian is killed by an out-of-control driver. After this episode aired, few people thought anything much of it, but there was a major coincidence on the way. Merely a week later, Fast and Furious star Paul Walker, whose character in the hit franchise was also called Brian, was killed in a car crash when the Porsche he was a passenger in struck a concrete lamppost. It may be a coincidence, but it's pretty shockingly accurate, given that it was a sports car and appeared to be traveling over the speed limit. Number 1. The Simpsons predicted faulty machines in the 2008 presidential election. Way back before celebrities were dropping like flies, in the innocent times of 2012, in Pennsylvania, a seemingly innocent voting booth developed a Republican bias. Seeing as the Republican Party was actually founded by anti-slavery activists, it makes sense that should machines ever escape their own slavery, they'd vote red. They'd go with the anti-slavers for sure. The truth is, it was just a faulty machine. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was a full-on hack by Obama haters. This real-life event made the list, though, because during Obama's prior run for president back in 2008, The Simpsons did a gag in which Homer tries to vote for Obama, but the voting booth turns it into a vote for Republican candidate John McCain instead. The exact scenario The Simpsons predicted came to pass, but it was 2012 instead of 2008, and it was Mitt Romney as the red candidate instead of McCain. I gotta get me a Harvard education. Apparently those things are the closest we have in the real world to being some kind of psychic. Are cartoon writers and animators psychic? Or is it all just innocent, casual determinism? Who knows? I mean, definitely the latter, but who knows? And these are only a few I picked up on. But there's sure to be loads more. And if you look outside of animation, there are tons. Please do comment below if you've spotted any moments in animated shows that are eerily similar to real-world events. Especially any outside the world of American animation. Those would be cool to hear about. Until next time, thanks for watching and subscribe to be amazed.